Welcome to Disrupted Science, the occasional conversation between the authors of the upcoming book, How the Internet Disrupted Science. I'm Joy Moore here with my co-author, Ken Anderson, and we're recording this on Tuesday, October 7th for release on Wednesday, October 8th. Hey, Ken.
Hey,
How's it
Joy.
going?
It's going great. Look at us getting things ready to put in the can.
I know we've got a busy schedule. We got a lot of
Yeah.
people to talk to, and we want to make sure that we we save space for it.
Yeah. Plus, we want to be a little bit more diligent about being weekly, but also, you'll notice I'm wearing a new
Nice
t-shirt.
shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to wear
Furfka.
it.
Furfka.
Yeah,
Qu'est-ce que
well.
c'est?
Well, he recently, I guess he released a 7-minute video, which I'm not even gonna watch, saying that vaccines don't save lives. So I'm wearing
Oh,
this shirt in honor of his ignorance
yeah.
and persistent ignorance. But anyhow, so yeah,
Well,
but we are busy and we've got a lot of great interviews lined up. So I'm really excited about those.
yeah, me too. We've learned so much from the folks that we've interviewed before, and we're looking forward to learning some more. But in the meantime, we've got some thoughts of our own
Yeah.
and some learnings to share before we get back to the experts.
Right.
We didn't post last week because we were on the road again, learning.
Hmm.
Um, but we did do quite a bit of writing on some hot topics. And so, for folks who are listening to the podcast, maybe you were introduced to us through some of the guests that we've had. Just a reminder that if you want to see what we're writing about on a regular basis, go to the Geyser and our Disrupted Science newsletter as well.
Yep. And subscribe,
And subscribe.
because that helps us independent people keep hot pockets in the freezer. So,
Ew,
well,
no.
no, what's your preference for
What do I keep in the freezer
Dorito? Is it Doritos? Do you have Dorito? What's your preference for cheap,
for junk food?
embarrassing snacks?
Oh, oh, I have to say,
There's a list. There's a longer list than I
yeah,
thought you're
I
processing
got a
here.
list. You know what? The best thing to put in the freezer are those little York peppermint patties.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that,
Totally agree.
yeah.
Yeah, there's
Um,
no downside to that.
and they cost like nothing because you can steal them at 7-Eleven. They keep them on the counter as a give a penny, take a penny. Anyway, um, so
I
what are we?
learned I learned a lot about you right then. But and all of it I agree with. So this is all good. So yeah, absolutely. And the best thing about the frozen York peppermint patties, frankly, is that you take one out and there aren't that many calories and they're refreshing as heck. And then
Mhm.
that's good for like 2 hours. Like
Yeah.
one of those little pups. It's just amazing. So
Mhm.
totally with you on that one. Okay, but that's not what we're here to talk about. How to score your free York peppermint patty freezer thrills.
So what are we talking about today, Kent? We got a big topic.
Yeah, actually, we do, and it's one I approach with a little bit of trepidation because I don't know that I'm have enough expertise, but I have enough knowledge to be a little bit dangerous. And it's about one of the questions that I've been batting back at you sometimes is why do we give tech a pass, right? Why does tech get a pass as a product offering,
Mhm.
and why is there kind of this faith in it? And then we were talking about how the administration has fostered a fear of Tylenol, which is one of the most scientifically studied and heavily marketed and well-known pain relievers and analgesics ever. And it's definitely safe, and everybody knows how to take it. It's like, why is this disconnect? And it made me think about, how some of it is, I think, almost an ignorance of where technology came from. And I was reading Randall Munroe's latest What If 2 book, and someone asked the question about what if you made, vacuum tubes led to transistors, which led to silicone chips, right? So there's a
The
direct
tubes.
path. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, because they used to be on off and they would have little, paths of electrical signals that would go through those vacuum tubes, and that's how you would get various effects. And then it led to transistors, which were a way to shrink and consolidate a bunch of vacuum tube functions. And then it led to silicon chips and computer chips. And so somebody said, what if you made an iPhone out of vacuum tubes? Could you do it? And he said, yes, you could do it, but it would be on edge, on its long edge. It would be 5 blocks long and 300 feet tall.
Excuse me.
So it would be, yeah, I know that's the reaction, but you could do it. So,
Sorry.
we're basically, all this technology is just a miniaturization of ham radios in a way, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, why are we worshiping this? Why are we giving people who know how to use that stuff a free pass and like their ideas are sensational? And
Just a thought on that. Do you
yeah,
think the fact that it keeps getting smaller and smaller and now is approaching basically invisibility, it it gets it gets more exciting and curious?
yeah. I mean, the other comparison Randall Munroe made is that if you took all the radio tube functions, vacuum tube functions in one of the first computers and just put that computer power in a similar, space that it would take for our chips now to execute it, it would fit inside a grain of salt,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we've done Moore's law has paid off, right? Moore's law has worked, and we've gotten all this power. And I think that's part of it. And we'll talk maybe a little bit about the fascination with nanotechnology that some of these transhumanists have, because I think that is kind of the logical extension of this miniaturization thinking that they've been chasing forever. But I think that's part of it. I mean, technology has a successful track record in a lot of ways, right? So they've been able to do some surprisingly good things. I don't think we have those good things in the right order. I think LED light is probably one of the greatest things that we've done, as far as energy conservation and sheer convenience and just science. It's just that LED. Please appreciate your
Mm-hmm.
LED bulbs. They're amazing. They don't generate heat; they just generate light. Can you imagine that? I mean, what a breakthrough! That's just amazing. But you look back through at and I was talking to a technologist last week, and we were talking about Sam Altman,
Mm-hmm.
and how, there's the case of the kid who used Chat GPT, and his parents allege that that led to his suicide, and they seems like they have the receipts on that, right? And he said, no one's touching Sam. And I said, well, that's what they used to say about Sam Bankman-Fried,
Mm-hmm.
right? FTX he was too rich, he was too cool, he was,
He
cryptocurrency was
was
too
too
much of the
young, too
future.
smart, and the effective altruists in that circle, they were so far ahead of what the rest of us were even interested in
Right.
when they started.
Yeah, and they've kind of gone, you know, does your toaster have a spirit, kind of down that path.
Mm-hmm.
And does your toaster have a soul? And I said, well, one of them does, but I don't know which one. But anyhow, but so
How many
it pretty
toasters do you have?
no comment. Um, but pretty soon it became clear that he was operating at kind of a criminal enterprise, and now people are in jail. And blockchain was, the fast follower mindset, and the belief that that new tech is always wondrous and always worth pursuing. I remember in scientific publishing, there was just this huge surge of blockchain meetings and conferences and
Oh
things
yeah,
on the
we all
slate.
had to learn about it before we even wanted to, just in
Yeah.
case.
And I was an early skeptic, and people were like, how can you be skeptical of this? And I said, well, let me delineate it for you. It doesn't make sense. And lo and behold, it hasn't. And cryptocurrencies have been a path to corruption and criminality, and all. So you know the pass that we give tech has a price, right?
Mm-hmm.
We pay with crime, we pay with corruption. Elizabeth Holmes was cosplaying Steve Jobs, and that was a whole bit of fraud right there. We have Sam Altman, and it looks like OpenAI is is well, they're definitely being sued over the suicide of that teenager in California. And on the other hand, then you have science, right? And they delivered to us Tylenol back
Mm-hmm.
in the 1950s. And it's one of the safest drugs around, right?
Well, it is and it isn't. If you follow the directions,
Right,
it's you shouldn't take too much of it. The
right,
dose is the toxicity.
right.
That's across the board with anything you put in your body.
Exactly, exactly. Yep.
So it if you take too much, it can be bad. If you take a little bit, it may or may not do anything compared
Right.
to stronger drugs. But yes.
Yeah, but it's safe. It's well tolerated. It's people know how to take it if they take it, and people know when to take it if they take it. Generally, there are very few cases of actual toxicity associated with it, and those are unusual. But it is a drug, like you said, and there can be if you take too much too fast, it can harm you. But water can too.
Mm-hmm.
So and all of that is, but as far as in that category, it's very safe. And then the claims that it has some link to autism are completely fabricated out of thin air by people who have something to gain from it, right?
Well, they have, yeah, there's been a long, the skepticism of Tylenol has been building for many, many, many years. And I think
Hmm.
it's probably because it's like one of the most common things, and that's what people like to rail against in order to give alternatives.
Hmm.
But there's been research, trying to say that Tylenol is bad for decades.
Hmm.
And then more recently, a lot of in the mama sphere that has turned into the Maha mama sphere. There's been, a lot of talk about Tylenol in particular and why you shouldn't take it or why you shouldn't give it to your children in particular. And I think that's just building on the whole let's go against tradition.
Hmm.
Let's not trust the lowest common denominator that your doctor's going to recommend, and let's, try to find something else.
Right. And so this kind of gets us into the faith area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things that Maha and all the alternative medicine people do is they try to say, well, your individual needs are different. And we're going to first strip away the idea that you're similar, right? So vaccines don't apply to everybody. They may not apply to you. You can make your individual choice, right? This may not be the best drug for you. We're going to test your blood and we're going to test your, fluids and whatever we're going to test. We're going to test a whole bunch of your heart rate and your skin impedance and all this stuff, and we're going to come up with a profile of you and then give you a specific um, you know
Diagnosis.
diagnosis and treatment protocol just for you because you're
Mm-hmm.
special, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're a special person and you're unique. And in this modern day, everybody likes to feel unique, but they use this to make themselves into almost a faith healer of a type, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things you need to do is knock down what science has found on a population base to work, like vaccines and relatively mild analgesics and things like that, and slot yourself in as the alternative that will have unaccountable individual protocols for, and it's very hard to sue if everybody has a different protocol because it's hard to get a class action lawsuit if everybody's
Mm-hmm.
got a slightly different protocol, right? So it's kind of smart. But oh, go
But
ahead.
I want to interject because one thing that this new philosophy of everybody is individual and you get your own protocol and you deserve it is bumping up against what the I guess the big healthcare um complex has has built up over the years, which is in the realm of over diagnosis and over testing.
Hmm.
And I was watching some presentations from the Preventing Overdiagnosis conference that took place in Oxford a couple of weeks ago. And there were
Hmm.
some really good talks. And that's a natural reaction to say there's a lot of billing, there's a lot of tests, there are a lot of things in terms of over testing and over diagnosis that are causing harm.
Hmm.
And this take a different left turn and say everyone's individual and we don't even need to care about the public health in between, I think is what's emerging, and it's got to be super challenging
Yeah.
for people who are trying to figure out public health that works.
Right, in general, because that's the whole goal of public health is if you make the water safe for everybody, everybody benefits. But if
Mhm.
or the milk or if you pasteurize the milk for everybody, everybody's safer. And then you have these people saying, well, no, you should be drinking raw milk or you should be doing, this other thing. And, you should go swim in the Rock Creek, you know, poop canal with your grandkids and that's going to be okay. And, okay. But that's, there's just this idea that, and so for physicians or public health people trying to look at whether the public health system is working and you have all of these fringe activities going on, you can't get a clear picture of what's actually happening. And there's been a lot more documented, and it's been actually going on for years about how people they don't tell their doctors everything that's going on because they know where the line is. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't say that I'm taking, these herbs and these supplements. And so a lot of doctors have to spend all this extra time going after those and then they find out maybe that's the problem, right?
Right. And there's a lot of interactions between things that you know, buy at the vitamin shop and what you're being prescribed or even what you eat or drink, you know. I
Right,
mean, the biggest one is like be careful with your grapefruit consumption
right,
if you're on different medications.
right. Yeah, 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 exactly. So one of the things that it sets these things apart, these people apart in a way, is they appeal to authority, right? That's one. So one of the things is first, let's separate you from the pack, right?
Hmm.
You're not like everybody else. You're a unique individual snowflake, and you get your own protocols. And then those protocols are going to be given to you by authority, but not the authority of evidence, but the authority of personality, right? So it's a cult of personality approach and kind of a faith-based thinking. So one of the things that happened with Tylenol, where I think it was a week or two ago, right after the announcement, there were these lies going around based on AI videos or fake videos of pregnant women chugging Tylenol to defy their
Yeah.
president, because then they were called the lunatic libtards and all this stuff. So again, separating people into groups that don't make sense, telling lies essentially to elevate their authority figure and denigrate people, but it's all based on a lie. And so, but the lie spreads because social media rewards that, which is another problem in all of this. But the technology, again, we get back, and there we get back to the technology, right? So you
Hmm.
have lies that spread super fast on social media because they get amplified there because they yield clicks because even the lunatic libtards have to click on it and they go, what in the world are they talking about? This is crazy. And they see how crazy it is, but it registers as a click and it rewards the system anyhow. And then you have the technologists themselves, right? We get back into the world of the people of effective altruism and transhumanism and long-termism, and we get to
Hmm.
Peter Thiel, sorry. And he said recently, if you regulate AI, you are the Antichrist.
And I could not bring myself to read that. So
Yeah, so he
what's he
he made
talking about?
well, he's basically saying that it's the whole Adam Becker thing, right?
Hmm.
That that we are doomed, and the only way out of our terrible situation on Earth, which is a dying planet, is to get to the singularity and escape it and spread our seed through the galaxy and blah 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 blah. And if you regulate AI, you are tantamount to the Antichrist because you are going to basically cause the death and destruction of all humankind through your regulations.
And do
So
you think that he's using this religious jargon specifically because A, he believes in it, or B, it appeals to a lot of what's going on in the political situation in our country today, where there's a big Christian nationalist?
I think probably more the latter, but I think it also he just knows that it's good rhetoric and it's going
Yeah.
to and it comes but it comes awfully naturally to these people
Well, it's
to
also simplistic and scary at the same time. So
right,
for
right,
whoever your audience is, I get it.
right. And then Tristan Harris, who runs the Center for Humane Technology, was on Jon Stewart last night, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he said they're in this arms race to own the economy, build a god, and make trillions of dollars. And Jon
Yeah.
Stewart replied with, I think they think they're gods.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at all the things that they've been doing and all the ways we've played into it. And this gets me back to what they're looking for. And I think what they're looking for is transcendence, right? That's what religion and technology seem to have in common at this point, right?
Yeah, what's happening now in real life that, you and I can see, we can walk around, we experience is not as important as what could happen
Mm-hmm.
in the next life or
Right,
later.
right, right. And that gets back to I think the effective altruist who said something like, if you feed a starving child now, but you deny that money from an AI system that could save the world 100 years from now, you're making a bad decision.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what he said. But, I was reading something where they said, if you don't recognize and understand how religious and technological transcendence have developed together, you'll never be able to successfully counter them, much less recognize when they might be developing within you as well. And I think that gets into where we got with open access, which
Mm-hmm.
has always had a religious overtone to it. I was rereading the Budapest OA initiative, and it's
And
very
remind me when that came out.
2002 or three, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, early on. It was it
Budapest.
was
Yeah.
Budapest. It was
Yeah.
one of the first. I mean, there was a whole group of them that came out around that time. But this one, it ends with removing access barriers to the literature will accelerate research, enrich education, share the learning of the rich with the poor and the poor with the rich, make this literature as useful as it can be, and lay the foundation for uniting humanity in a common intellectual conversation and quest for knowledge. That's transcendence, right?
Yeah.
And how's
Yeah.
that going? Not well.
Not good.
No.
Um,
And so I think that's the other part of this is that when you're so tied to faith in something, right? And what has happened with open access is it has become a prosperity gospel,
mhm.
right? So
Absolutely.
now people are so it's consolidated publishers into five mega churches, let's call them,
Yep.
and they are preaching the prosperity gospel, which is the more we believe in tech, the more money we're going to make. And if you don't believe in tech, you're going to be crushed
Hmm.
or you're going to be left over.
You're going to be left behind. And
Mm-hmm.
even though the big five mega churches aren't um, explicitly talking about how much money they're making, what they are doing is creating uh, knock on economies through all the different companies who are sprouting up and spreading the gospel throughout the world to support this. So this is, publishers are they're basically manufacturing. You take words from one group of people and you get them to another group of people. It's pretty simple. But
Right.
by putting it in this context of we're doing something bigger and better, that something is going to come out of these words that we can't see. We humans can't see
Right.
unless we have all of it together and we've got tech on top of it. That's creating an enormous amount of wealth for people all around them, supporting them, and it's bringing everyone into it in a singular, forward march to
Right. To
we
whatever. And
it's too late. We've already, we're we're always at the 25th mile of the marathon,
right,
right?
right,
We've been at the 25th mile for a long time. We've been training for years.
right.
It's just right there,
Yeah. It's this Sisyphean temptation of we're almost at the top of the mountain, and then
Yeah.
the boulder rolls back, and it rolled back big time with RFK actually. So I think that's hopefully a learning. But then you have it brings me back to someone who or a marketing message. I don't even want to attribute it to Jay Flynn at Wiley, but he put his face on it. So Jay shouldn't have done that. But a marketing message
Well,
that came out.
he was the one that they were gonna go see in the booth at Frankfurt. So
Yeah, and he's been quoted in the media, so you got to own it, Jay, I guess. But I hate to personalize these things sometimes. But anyhow, he he put out there was a marketing message from Wiley about creating this false narrative that we've been stuck for 30 years and AI is here, so now it's time to make moves, which is basically the updated version of move fast and break things, right?
mhm.
We're just going to slam this thing into our systems and see what happens. And then they frame it as there will be winners and losers. And which side will you be on when the AI dust settles? Which is unnecessarily full of false machismo, right? It's like we're gonna have a battle, and it's gonna be zero sum, and you're either gonna be, with the tough AI kids, you're gonna be some sort of wimpy non AI loser.
Yeah,
But also,
who are the losers that he's talking to? The independent.
yeah, I guess the society publishers that Wiley built their reputation on. So, so that's not cool. But it's also
I
the
don't
losers must be humans, right? Because the AI is going to win. So if you happen to have a heartbeat and a functioning EEG, you might be a loser. But if you're a silicon-based inference engine, you might be a winner. And so you better align with the people taking us toward the singularity. So basically, these religious zealots in the effective altruism, transhumanism, and long-termism group, maybe he doesn't realize, or their marketing team doesn't realize everything that they're packaged up there, but it's very much sounds like the rapture.
know. Well, I would. My hunch is yes, it sounds just like the Rapture, and it is a very compelling marketing message, but it is so out of touch with what is actually happening in their business, with their stakeholders, and also in the world at large. We're all seeing all this terrible stuff or nonsense coming
Mm-hmm.
out of AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just kind of like, what, read the room? Who are your stakeholders?
Right.
Um,
There are
and and
alternative messages. You
is
don't
it,
need to go
yeah,
to the
it's like
religious
it's
texts and quote from the text from the
right.
Silicon Valley Bible. And then it ends with the thing that had both of you and I kind of like, I don't know, banging our heads on the table while we laughed, to expend the energy in a different way. From content curators to knowledge architects.
That's
I
not a thing. That's
what
not a thing. Knowledge
what
architects. Yeah.
you don't architect, dude. You run a group of scientific journals and books. Get over
Mhm.
yourself. You are not a knowledge architect. The people you serve, maybe through their collaboration, cooperation, and long-term dedication to their scientific and scholarly tasks, may get to the point where there's some knowledge generated. They probably will because they're really smart. You
Well,
have
no.
some of those smart people in there. Well, let me finish. I'm ranting now because
Okay.
let me finish because you've got some of those smart people in your midst, and they know those other smart people, and they're trying to serve them. And you're trying to put this overlay of technological voodoo and crap on top of it all, and you're going to screw it all up. And it's all so you can serve some sort of quasi-religious, techno-utopian vision that has not proven itself in 25 years, has gone the opposite way. And you're not really thinking about this or seeing what reality is, like you said, Joy. These people need to get a grip. There, rant over. Thank you.
Fair enough. I mean, uh, it's hard to, and you know me, and I talk about this all the time. I always want to understand motivations,
Hmm.
um, why people do things, the reasons they do things are important. And sometimes there's no good reason, and you don't want to oversubscribe intent,
Right.
but you do want to assume positive intent. Um, but this is just, it's just so out of touch with what is happening with science in America in particular, but
Hmm.
also because it's acute for us because we can see it, because we can see pseudoscience winning out at the
Hmm.
highest level of government.
Hmm.
But that doesn't, that's just because we can see it right in our own backyard. But the state of science and the production of scientific papers around the world has has blossomed um, over the last 10-15 years in ways that are not good. They're not good
Hmm.
for people. They're not good for the people who are creating the papers. It's creating wealth for people who are processing them. It's creating jobs for people temporarily who
Hmm.
can engage with the manufacturing of these papers. Um, but it has nothing to do with academia and has nothing to do with the advancement of science. And it all goes back to a few, um, we talk about visionaries and charlatans
Hmm.
in the promulgation of religions. Well, I think we have our own versions in scientific publishing, and I don't know
Hmm.
if they know which ones they are.
Right.
It
Yeah,
was started
absolutely.
by visionaries, but there's been a lot of charlatans and opportunists who've come into the mix. And you can't blur the two. You
Hmm.
can't.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things Tristan Harris said in the interview with Jon Stewart, which is a great quote, and what you and I have always reminded ourselves of when we've gotten down to it and reminded people to follow the money, is that if you know the incentives, you can predict the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like you said, the incentives that crept into the open access movement were money and scale. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that authors pay invited scale and speed because it's transactional, and then you can predict that here we are, right? It was a very straight line once that
Yeah.
engine started going,
And what
and
was the
consolidation as well because of the cost of technology, which people didn't accept at the beginning. That technology is a lot more expensive than sending a monthly print issue and then going back to your desk.
yeah, they we kind of stopped talking about the cost of technology because it keeps getting more expensive the more that goes through it and the more that we're trying to add to it. But your last point reminded me of that paper you sent me this morning about a group of researchers, and I don't know what country they're from, but they did a study of retraction watch
Mm,
papers
right.
and which types of journals they were most likely to come from. And they did a very,
Solid.
solid methodology using statistical regression and blah, 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 all these science things that I don't
What you
really
do.
understand.
Yep.
But they're like, hey, guess what? The most retractions come from journals that publish open access at high volumes. Yeah,
Right. In health and medicine,
in health and medicine in
because of course
particular, because there's a
those.
market for it.
Right, and
Yeah,
it gets back to my observation of why do thieves rob banks? Because that's where the money is.
right.
Why do OA publishers process a lot of papers in health and medicine? Because that's where the money is. And
Yeah.
that's where the grifters are too.
Hmm.
That's why RFK is. You're not seeing a lot of grift coming out of NASA. Hopefully,
Well, you never know.
Yeah, maybe we'll look over there. But I wanted to, I see in the background there, I wanted to maybe, wrap up with talking about Karen Howe's book, which I know you're
Hmm.
reading, and I skip read it. I didn't go into the drama, the Sam Altman drama, soap opera stuff as much.
Hmm.
But even that, even the little bit that I did, she does a great job of undermining him as some sort of genius. He's an operator like Elon Musk, and it's interesting. I was thinking about how Elon Musk used to be compared to Tony Stark,
Oh God, yeah.
and then Tony Stark died, which means Robert Downey Jr. needed a role. And about the same time that he found a new role with Marvel, Elon Musk changed, and now Robert Downey Jr. is coming back as Doctor Doom. And I thought, oh, that's so great. Robert Downey Jr. is playing both Elon Musks.
Well,
I,
there's something that it occurred to me when you were talking earlier, and we use this term all the time, and I think we might need to relabel them. Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Peter Thiel,
Mhm.
um, and Jeff Bezos, they aren't
Mark
technologists.
Zuckerberg, yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg, they're not
Yeah.
technologists. We use the word technologist because they made their money in technology. There are
Hmm.
technologists. There are people who practice the craft of technology. That's not who these people are. They're business
No,
people.
they're salesmen.
Yeah.
They're salesmen and operators. And so I have to take, excuse me, Zuckerberg out of that because he does know how to code. Um,
But that at this point it doesn't matter anymore.
yeah,
That's
I
not
don't
the
think he's
business
coding
that
that
they're
much
in. Yeah.
while he's building his bunkers and putting together his 21 house estate in California. So yeah. Yeah, I mean they're operators and they're business tycoons and
Mhm.
they're billionaire magnates, right? So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We need to talk about them as if they're the tech barons, right? We
Yeah.
had the oil barons and now we've got the tech
Right. They
barons.
didn't the oil barons didn't dig the oil wells. The
Mm,
railroad barons didn't lay the tracks.
no,
They
they
just
just
made
put
the
together
money
the
from it.
capital and
Yeah.
operated behind the scenes to make money off of it. I totally agree.
And just like scientific publishers who have rebranded themselves as technology companies or analytic data providers or
Mm,
knowledge architects are none of those. They're 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 publishers, they're printers,
right, right.
they're online printers,
Yeah.
or I wish they would be.
Well, online publishers and the good ones still do a heck of a job selecting for an audience and directing relevant information to, that they test and force authors to re-examine perhaps multiple times. And then they get that to a relevant audience, and if it's not for their audience, they send it packing and maybe it finds a better audience somewhere else. But it's okay for science to be slow and careful. I think that's
Mhm.
actually what we need to remember is that the goal isn't more and faster. The goal is correct and appropriate and relevant. But I think what the other thing I just to kind of getting back to the a major premise is I think what's been really good about a lot of the literature coming out around AI lately and tech more generally is that you can't elevate these people, and the tech is not that fascinating. It really isn't that fascinating.
Mhm.
It's Python scripts and Java and tech stacks and full stacks and blah 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 and all this stuff that you can chart out and you can understand, and it's based on a whole legacy of things that go way back to wiring diagrams and vacuum tubes, and it's been miniaturized, but what's been but it we can't worship it. And I think a lot of the things like Karen Howe's book and the AI Con book and Adam Becker's book kind of show how these people who got a lot of money really quickly and a lot of followers because of it have turned everything into a kind of a quasi-religious movement around tech, and we don't question it as much as we should, and we need to interrogate it, and we've interviewed some people who have done that very well, and We need to continue to be skeptical about these claims and how they fit in with our mission, right? Which our
Hmm.
mission is to get the best information possible to the right people when it's ready, and not to create knowledge architectures, whatever
That's
that
right.
is. All
And
right. Oh, go
and
ahead.
then just to kind of tie the two together is that the tinier and more invisible the AI tech gets, that we can't see because it's just on our phone or it's in our computer and it's magical, the bigger the externalities are
Mm-hmm.
growing. The big data centers, the the tax on communities and the
Mm-hmm.
climate, what people are having to deal with as a side effect of using it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we could say the same about publishing at scale,
Mm-hmm.
is that the tinier it gets, the quicker the time goes from something being a paper to being published. There's an immediate satisfaction that only looks like something that you can see if you're doing a Google search. But the externalities of that are growing and growing and growing
Yeah,
downstream.
yeah, I want to. If that's a great point. Excuse me, and I want to harp on it a little bit or extend it a little bit. So BMC Environmental Health published that paper that President Trump and RFK Jr. leaned on heavily to create the false
The Harvard Mount
the
Sinai,
Harvard
the
study.
Harvard study. Yeah.
So they published it open access and they took a few $1,000s for that, right? The externalities they're causing are people with arthritis being afraid to take Tylenol to to alleviate a little bit of pain in the morning, a little bit of achiness in the morning, right? Pregnant women having to go to pediatricians to worry about whether their kid with a fever should be taking, this syrup that has a little bit of acetaminophen in it, or whether they should take it when they're pregnant. And it's just all this externality for a few $1,000s. And for and if they had done any editorial vetting that of any quality, I think, like a Google search on the authors, they would have found that this guy had been kicked out of court,
That's
and
not
and
the,
they
but
would have.
that's not within the aims and scope of a BMC
I know, but
journal, if
that's
I
so.
understand
But that
correctly.
to me that underscores your point. Like, we're worshiping at the altar of tech and the ancillary, the sidecar of that is all information should be processed by these computer systems to get to the singularity, and that's open access. But it's really hurting people, and
Mhm.
and
Period. It's
that's
hurting
unacceptable.
people.
Yeah. All right. So hopefully that discussion was enlightening and in the right way and gives you food for thought. And I guess we'll move on to discoveries of the week. All right. Welcome to Discoveries of the Week. Joy, you have a surprise for me. So I want to hear it.
I
What you
have a
got?
surprise. Yes, I didn't give you a preview of my discovery for the week because I thought it might have been privileged information.
Ooh.
But uh, this takes the theme of worshiping tech to new heights, so to speak.
Okay.
So the other
I'm
day,
along for the ride here. I'm
you're,
along for the ride.
I think you're catching on. Do you know where
Uh-oh.
I'm going?
We'll see.
So the other day at a roller coaster park nearby that won't be named, a 18-year-old male lost his phone, or thought he lost his phone at the top of the roller coaster.
Okay.
Um, Now everywhere, every roller coaster you get on, there's a sign that says, "Don't keep your phone in your pocket. Put it in this basket. It'll be here when you get back. You're going to be gone for exactly, maybe 2 minutes and 12 seconds. It's
Right.
okay."
Right.
But people don't do that, and then things get lost. So the other day, there was this kid who lost his phone, decided to go get it. So he climbed to the top of the roller coaster. He managed to get in his
Like
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
mode.
mode, really?
Yep. Um, and got to the top of the roller coaster while it was still going
My gosh.
and then froze because maybe came to his senses and
Right, or look down.
they had to shut down the whole park, evacuate 25,000 people
You're kidding.
to bring in the rescue service to get this kid off the top of the roller coaster because he was looking for his phone. And my question is, if you drop your phone at the top of a roller coaster, don't you think it would end up at the bottom?
Right.
Why would you do that?
So,
It
oh my gosh, that hurts my head. So there's gravity ignorance,
yeah,
first of all.
and there's just
Oh
the
my.
sheer panic
Do
that
you know
would
how old the
compel
kid was?
somebody.
How old was he?
18.
18.
Yeah,
Oh.
he went to jail.
Oh yeah, boys do developmentally much more slowly. Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
my.
it's
But he's
heartbreaking.
okay, but the whole place had to be evacuated because they didn't know what was
25,000
going on.
people
Yeah,
had to be evacuated to
because
make
there's
sure
this
that
guy
he
at the
got
top of the
down
roller
safely.
coaster. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. It's scary, but it's also sad to think about like what was going through his head. He's like, I'm
It's a
gonna go,
phone.
I'm gonna
It's
go
a
do that.
phone. Worship of tech, right? It's your phone
Yeah.
is so, first to keep it with you because, can't go anywhere without it.
Yeah.
And then to risk your life to get it back and then to do it all wrong
And then go to jail.
and then go to jail. Oh my gosh, the poor guy.
Oh,
Oh
I
man.
hope
The
he's
roller
okay.
the roller coaster. The roller coaster. That's sad. The roller coaster kid goes to jail.
Yeah.
Coaster kid goes to jail.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, my discovery of the week is a little more prosaic, but always wonderful. So there's a full moon last night, and
Yeah.
and beautiful. It's super moon type of thing, and I saw it from I was teaching music, and there were big windows looking out east from the classroom, so all the kids and I were looking out at that while we played running up that hill by Kate
Oh.
Bush, which
Hmm.
sounded, we have a singer. She sounds so good with that. But anyhow, so we watched the moon and then I came home and then I'm like, okay, um, we have a really good orbital plane exposure to the south of us. So you can always see a planet on it, with my telescope. So I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm going to see what
Of course
planets
you
are
have
out
I
there.
was gonna say what's an orbital plane, and then
Okay.
of course you have a telescope.
Of course I have
Okay.
a telescope. Even though it's a bright moon, I'm like, I can still see stuff. It's okay. So and plus I've got a lens to look at the moon, which by the way, trivia, the color of the moon is the same if you as a cast iron skillet. So that's how bright the sun is reflecting off of it.
Oh.
So if it's not in the sunlight, it's the same tone as a cast iron skillet. But if you look at it without a smoked glass lens with a
Uh-huh.
telescope, you will blind yourself. That's how intense the light is. So you have to have a smoked glass lens. So pro tip, smoked glass lens if you look at the moon. With even with binoculars, you'll just peel away really quickly because
Hmm.
if it's the next thing from a solar looking at the sun. But anyhow, so I found Saturn out there and I dialed it in and it's the first time I've seen it many, many times. It always just gives me the chills because you're watching it, in close enough to real time with the speed of light. But it's the first, and I've always seen it with the rings tilted, right, either
Hmm.
up or down or whatever. And it's beautiful, and you can see the moons, and you can see the star field behind it, and it's just glorious. And I've been privileged enough to have taken people from the age of 7 to 70 to have their first telescope experience and watch them just change, right? Because you actually see a planet out there. I mean, it's still just wondrous.
Yeah.
But this was the first time I've seen it, I think, kind of how Galileo saw it, which is on edge.
Oh.
And so just the rings are just it's perfectly on edge. And that gave me another kind of historical thrill because it's like I think that's how because his drawing is very like
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's not like, muddy like you would get with rings and everything. I don't think he couldn't see the deep star field behind it, which is a great thing with new optics. But I thought, wow, that's probably kind of how he saw it. And that was just it all this AI stuff, it's the other part of the reason it's crap. It doesn't make you feel connected to humans hundreds of years ago. Like
Hmm.
looking out with your own real eyes through a lens at a real planet in more or less real time, as real time as you can get, because speed of light is constant. And looking at that and breathing and thinking about who else has seen it like this and realizing everything that unleashed and knowing your history and feeling part of the human race and feeling connected to everything that's going on and to the whole human endeavor. That was my discovery of the week, which was I looked at Saturn and I felt really connected to everything that science and humanity are trying to do, and it felt great. That was my discovery of the week. So
That's a good one.
there's my shirt.
But doesn't that's where scientific journals started, is for some humans to read and look at through their own telescopes what
Yeah,
somebody else had discovered. And then they
right.
can decide whether they want to learn more about that or not.
Right, to elucidate findings from the natural
Yeah.
world and understand what we can do about with that knowledge and how it changes our perceptions and leads to more knowledge. Science is a process, right? But
Hmm.
now it's been perverted and corrupted by people who think science is
Product.
a that knowledge can be architected.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyhow, so my discovery of the week is science is still cool, and Galileo saw something really cool, so I don't blame him for drawing a cool picture of it that we still look at every once in a while and go, yeah, that was a good finding, dude. So
Well, and thanks for reminding me of the full moon. One of the hiking trails I go to is having a full moon hike tonight. So
oh, there you
I
go.
I might do that.
You gonna take the dogs?
I'll take the dog. Of course, I'm not going to go out at night in the full moon without my dog. Might be
Gotta have
werewolves.
someone to howl with. All right. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our friends at Provoke the Truth for the music. And as always, let us know what you think. You can reach us at disruptedscience@gmail.com, and we will see you soon.